She was already walking toward me before I made it past the champagne table. My sister Sophia, in a pale pink gown worth more than most people's cars, with a smile that had knives in it. You've got nerve showing up here. Congratulations on your engagement. Did you think anyone forgot what you are? Her voice carried. Heads turned. You're the family disgrace. You always have been. I said nothing. Her mistake, she always took silence for weakness. Just a bitter failure who can't stand seeing me happy. You came to ruin my night. I reached into my clutch, pulled out a pale gold envelope, and pressed it into her hand. Happy engagement, sis. Open it. It's the only truth you'll ever get from me. Then I walked. Behind me, paper tearing. A sharp breath from Liam. Then Sophia's scream, raw, ugly, nothing like a Crawford should sound in public. What is this? I didn't look back. The hotel door swung shut behind me. A black Rolls-Royce pulled to the curb. My driver Marcus opened the door. Right on time, Ms. Kane. The jet's waiting. Inside the ballroom, Sophia's hand shook as she stared at two photographs. Liam on a yacht, kissing a redhead, timestamped 7 days ago. Liam on a hotel balcony, shirtless, the same woman wearing his dress shirt. The bank statement was worse. $5 million moved to accounts in the Cayman Islands, Panama, Switzerland. All traced to Liam Sterling, her perfect fiancé. This is fake. She faked it. But Liam had gone gray. Sophia, I can explain. Who is she? Her name is Celeste. It was nothing. A fling. In the second photo, you're wearing a wedding ring. Where did you get a wedding ring? The question landed like a slap. Liam's mouth opened and closed. No sound came. The hotel manager appeared. Ms. Crawford, the credit authorization for this booking has been terminated. The account was under the name Ava Kane. Sophia spun. That's impossible. Ava has nothing. The authorization was quite substantial. You'll need to vacate within the hour unless you can provide alternative payment. Robert Crawford grabbed the bank statement. His face went purple. $5 million. You've been draining my company? Robert, the investments haven't matured. You were going to be my son-in-law. How long have you been stealing? Liam's silence was the only answer that mattered. Sophia stared at the photographs. Were you ever going to tell me? Liam looked at her. Something cold flickered behind his eyes. No. I wasn't. She threw her champagne glass. It shattered against the wall. Margaret Crawford finished her drink. Well. Someone should call the lawyers. 8 years earlier, I was 18 and still believed in family. My grandfather William was the only one who ever loved me without conditions. He built Crawford Designs from nothing and told me I had the gift. You see beauty in the world, Ava. Don't let anyone take that from you. Everyone else made sure I knew my place. We adopted you out of pity, Sophia whispered when we were children. You're not really my sister. You're a charity case. I learned to keep my head down. Work twice as hard. Smile when I wanted to scream. Grandfather spent weekends teaching me design while Sophia fumed with jealousy. By 15, I'd created a handbag that went into limited production. It sold out in 3 weeks. Your sister is jealous, he warned me. Jealousy makes people dangerous. I laughed it off. She was family. When I turned 18, grandfather died in his sleep. At the will reading, the lawyer announced he'd left me 20% of Crawford Designs, enough for a real voice in the company's future. Sophia smiled too sweetly. Ava deserves it. I'm happy for her. I should have known. 3 weeks later, the company held its annual design competition. The winner got a Parsons scholarship and a position at Crawford Designs. I submitted a collection called Metropolis, Art Deco-inspired accessories with clean geometry. My best work. The morning after submissions closed, I woke to my father screaming. The committee called. Sophia's entry was disqualified, because yours is identical. That's impossible. Those are my designs. Sophia sobbed on the couch, mascara perfectly unsmudged. She stole everything. She's always been jealous. I never touched your work. You saw my sketches on my desk. Liar. Sophia wailed. You broke into my room. The evidence was stacked. Her files had earlier timestamps. She'd told friends about her secret project weeks before. Her rough sketches looked like early drafts of my final designs. A flawless setup. I never stood a chance. Both of you are disqualified, Robert said. No scholarship. No position. But I didn't. Enough. His hand slammed the table. Sophia is my real daughter. She deserves this company. You've never understood your place in this family. You're not a Crawford. You never have been. You're kicking me out? I'm asking you to leave. Today. I looked at Margaret. Her face was ice. I looked at Sophia. Beneath the tears, something satisfied gleamed. She hadn't wanted the scholarship. She'd wanted me gone, out of the house, out of the will, out of the family. I packed one suitcase. No one helped. No one said goodbye. At the end of the driveway, I made a promise to myself. I will come back. I will find the truth. I will make them pay. Then I walked toward the train station and didn't look back. The jet touched down at Teterboro just after midnight. My phone buzzed as I stepped onto the tarmac. A text from my head of security, target confirmed. Meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. We have everything. I'd spent 8 years building what I had now. After my family threw me out, I'd survived on diner shifts and couch surfing until I met Helen Chen. She ran a small venture capital firm and spotted something in the smart wearable prototype I'd been sketching on napkins. You think differently, she said. Let's see what you can do. That prototype became my first patent. The patent became Kane Innovations. 5 years later, we dominated the high-end wearable tech market. I'd quietly acquired 47% of Crawford Design stock while they weren't watching. But the real discovery came from a private investigator I'd hired to trace my birth family. 2 months ago, he found the truth. My birth mother was Eleanor Vance, the original co-founder of Crawford Designs. She and William Crawford had built the company together. When she died, the Crawfords took everything. The house. The business. Me. They hadn't adopted me out of charity. They'd stolen my inheritance and spent 18 years making me feel grateful for it. At 8:55 a.m., I walked into the Crawford Designs headquarters. Same white marble lobby. Same smug receptionist who didn't recognize me. I'm here to see Robert Crawford. Your name? Ava Kane. She typed. Her face changed. Ms. Kane. I'm so sorry. The boardroom is on the top floor. Mr. Crawford is already there. In the elevator, I checked the second envelope in my bag, the one that would finish what the first one started. The boardroom held 12 people. Robert at the head. Margaret beside him. Sophia, hollow-eyed from the engagement disaster. Liam, looking cornered. And 8 board members who'd been summoned for an emergency meeting. Ava. Robert's voice was ice. What is the meaning of this? I dropped a document on the table. I own 47% of Crawford Designs. Effective immediately, I'm calling a vote to remove you as CEO. You own nothing. We would have known. The acquisitions were made through shell companies. 47 separate transactions over 4 years. Perfectly legal. The board members scrambled through the document. Their faces confirmed everything. Sophia lunged from her chair. You did this to destroy me. You faked those photos. You ruined my engagement. I didn't fake anything. Liam did that himself. I placed my phone on the table and pressed play. Liam's voice filled the room. Marrying Sophia was the plan from day one. Crawford Designs is bleeding money. Once I'm a partner, I'll move everything offshore, divorce her, and walk away clean. That family is too stupid to see what's coming. The recording ended. The silence was absolute. Sophia turned to Liam. You said you loved me. He didn't answer. His face said everything. I placed the second envelope on the table. This one's for the family. Robert tore it open. Inside were DNA results and Eleanor Vance's original partnership agreement with William Crawford. What is this? The truth. Eleanor Vance was my mother. She co-founded this company. When she died, you stole her shares, forged documents to make it look like you bought her out, and then raised me as a charity case to hide what you'd done. The board members stared at Robert. No one spoke. You're not my benefactors, I said. You're thieves. And I want everything back. Robert's face crumpled. We gave you a home. We raised you. You branded me a disgrace to cover your theft. You threw me out the moment I became inconvenient. I stood and straightened my jacket. You have 7 days to vacate the company and the house. My lawyers will handle the rest. Sophia grabbed my arm. You can't do this. We're your family. I looked at her hand on my sleeve until she let go. A family doesn't destroy a child to hide its own crimes. You made your choice 8 years ago. I'm just delivering the consequences. I walked out of the boardroom and didn't look back. The press conference was held that afternoon. I stood at a podium in front of 30 reporters and announced the restructuring of Crawford Designs under Kane Innovations. The Vance Foundation would take over its charitable arm, funding design scholarships for underprivileged students. A reporter raised her hand. Ms. Kane, your family says you've orchestrated a hostile takeover out of revenge. How do you respond? I almost smiled. Someone once called me the family disgrace at a party. I handed her an envelope and walked out. Inside was a mirror. I paused. She just had to be brave enough to look. By the time the story hit the evening news, Sophia had checked into a hotel under a false name. Liam had vanished entirely, rumor said somewhere in South America. Robert and Margaret barricaded themselves in the Greenwich house, but it was mortgaged to the hilt, and the bank had already called. Marcus drove me to the airport that evening. The city lights blurred past the window. Where to, Miss Kane? Anywhere I want. Yes, ma'am. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the photo I kept in a locked folder, a woman with dark hair and kind eyes. My mother. The one who'd loved me before any of them tried to break me. The envelope had been the beginning. Everything else was just math. Behind me, my sister's world had collapsed. Ahead of me, the sky was opening. 8 years ago, I was a disgrace and an orphan. Now I was the heir to everything they'd stolen. And I was just getting started. After the boardroom, I went back to my office at Kane Innovations. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park. My assistant brought coffee without being asked. Helen Chen was already waiting in my office. She'd been my first investor, my mentor, the one person who saw potential in a homeless 18-year-old sketching designs on diner napkins. The board voted, I said. Robert is out. I have controlling interest. Good. She didn't smile. Helen rarely did. And the personal side? Sophia knows about Liam. The recording played for everyone. She threw a glass at him. Messy. He deserved worse. Helen studied me. You've been waiting 8 years for this. How do you feel? I looked out at the park. October sunlight cut through the glass. Empty. Satisfied. Both. That's normal. Revenge is a meal that doesn't fill you up. She stood. The Vance Foundation paperwork is on your desk. Your mother's name deserves to mean something. After she left, I sat alone with the silence. 8 years ago, I arrived in New York with one suitcase and $200. I slept on a friend's couch for 3 weeks, then a shelter for 2 more. I worked double shifts at a diner in Queens, sketching ideas on greasy napkins during breaks. One night, a woman in a charcoal suit sat in my section. She ordered black coffee and frowned at her laptop for an hour. I refilled her cup 3 times. On the 3rd refill, she noticed my napkin, a rough sketch of a bracelet that could track heart rate and display notifications. "What's this?" she asked. "Nothing. Just an idea." She picked up the napkin. "Explain it to me." I did. I talked for 10 minutes about wearable technology, about integrating health monitoring into luxury accessories, about a market nobody was targeting. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she handed me a card. "Helen Chen, Meridian Ventures. Come to my office tomorrow. Bring more than napkins." That meeting became my first investment. $50,000 for 15% of what would become Kane Innovations. 6 months later, I filed my first patent. A year after that, we launched the Aegis bracelet, a luxury wearable that monitored vitals and synced with smartphones. It sold out in 4 days. By year 3, Kane Innovations was valued at $40 million. By year 5, $200 million. I bought out Helen's stake for 12 times her initial investment, but she stayed on as a board advisor. The whole time, I watched Crawford Designs. They were struggling. Robert had no design instincts. Sophia's collections were derivative and forgettable. They'd been coasting on grandfather's reputation for years, and it was running out. Their stock dropped, slowly and then quickly. I bought shares through shell companies, a few thousand at a time. For years and 47 transactions later, I own nearly half the company. During the acquisition phase, I hired a private investigator. His name was David Morrow, a former FBI agent with tired eyes. "I need you to find out who my birth mother was." It took him 3 months. When he finally called, his voice was strange. "I found her. Eleanor Vance. She was William Crawford's business partner. They founded Crawford Designs together in 1982. My mother co-founded the company?" "Yes. And she owned 40% of it. When she died, her shares should have gone to you." He paused. "They didn't. Robert Crawford filed paperwork claiming he bought her out before she died. The signatures don't match." The truth hit like ice water. My adoptive parents weren't charitable relatives who took in an orphan. They were thieves who'd stolen my inheritance and spent 18 years making me feel grateful for scraps. "Get me everything," I said. "Every document. Every witness. I want it all." Now the documents sat in my safe. The DNA results. The forged buyout agreement. Eleanor's original partnership contract with my grandfather. I had everything I needed to burn them to ash. I just had to decide how hot the fire should be. My phone rang. "Sophia." I let it ring 4 times before answering. "What do you want?" "You destroyed my life. My engagement is over. Liam is gone. Father might have a heart attack. Are you happy now?" "I'm not unhappy. Bitch." Her voice cracked. "I want to meet. Face to face. You owe me that." "I owe you nothing. Please." The word sounded unnatural in her mouth. "Just meet me. Tomorrow. Anywhere." I thought about it. Part of me wanted to refuse. But another part wanted to see her face when I told her the rest of the truth. "There's a cafe on Madison. Le Petit. Noon." I hung up before she could respond. The cafe was small and French, the kind of place where the croissants cost too much and the waiters pretended not to speak English. Sophia arrived late, wearing oversized sunglasses and a scarf like a celebrity hiding from paparazzi. She slid into the booth across from me. Without the ball gown and the crowd and the champagne, she looked smaller. Diminished. You came, she said. You asked. She removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were red. Where did you get those photos of Liam? Private investigator. I've had him followed for 6 months. 6 months? You've been planning this for 6 months? 8 years, actually. I took a sip of espresso. The Liam investigation was just the final piece. She stared at me. Why? Because of the design competition? Because Dad kicked you out? That was years ago. You clearly landed on your feet. You framed me for plagiarism. You had me thrown out of the house with nothing. You took the inheritance grandfather left me. I set down my cup. But that's not even the worst part. What's worse than that? I pulled out the DNA results and slid them across the table. Read. She read. Her face went through stages: confusion, disbelief, horror. This says Eleanor Vance was your biological mother. She co-founded Crawford Designs. She owned 40%. When she died, your parents stole her shares and pretended I was an orphan they'd rescued. I leaned forward. You called me a charity case my whole life, Sophia. But your family stole everything from me. The company. The house. The money. I was never your charity case. You were my thieves. That's not possible. Mom and Dad wouldn't. They did. I have the documents. The forged signatures. The fake buyout agreement. Your father will be facing criminal charges by the end of the month. Sophia's hands trembled. I didn't know. No. You just enjoyed the benefits. Ava, Stop. I held up a hand. I didn't come here for an apology. I came to tell you what happens next. The company is mine. The house is in foreclosure. I bought the mortgage last week. Your parents have 7 days to vacate. And me? What about me? I looked at her. My sister. My tormentor. The girl who'd whispered charity case in my ear since we were children. You get nothing. No trust fund. No inheritance. No safety net. You want to survive? Learn to work. The way I did. That's cruel. That's justice. I stood and dropped a 20 on the table. For the coffee. I walked out. Sophia didn't follow. That night, I went to the storage unit in Brooklyn where I kept my mother's things. It was a small unit, climate-controlled, holding 3 boxes that David Morrow had recovered from an attic in Vermont. Eleanor Vance's personal effects. Her journals. Her photographs. The pieces of a life cut short. I opened the first box. Letters, mostly. Correspondence with my grandfather about the business. Invoices. Design sketches in a hand similar to my own. The second box held photographs. Eleanor at a trade show, shaking hands with a buyer. Eleanor at a drafting table, frowning at a sketch. Eleanor holding a baby, me, with an expression of exhausted joy. I stared at that photo for a long time. The third box held her journals. Leather-bound, filled with neat cursive. I opened the first volume and began to read. March 1982, William and I signed the incorporation papers today. Crawford Designs. He wanted to name it after himself, but I didn't mind. The name matters less than the work. September 1985, the boutique on Madison opened. We sold 8 handbags on the first day. William says I'm the talent. He's the business mind. It works. June 1990, I'm pregnant. The father isn't involved. William is supportive but worried. He says a child will complicate the company. I don't care. This baby is mine. November 1990, you were born today. I'm naming you Ava, after my grandmother. You have my dark hair and your father's stubborn chin. I've never loved anything this much. March 1991, I'm sick. The doctors don't know what it is yet, but I feel it. I've changed my will. Everything goes to Ava. William will manage it until you're 18. I trust him. He's the only one I trust. April 1991, I can barely hold a pen. I'm afraid. Not of dying, of leaving you. Who will love you the way I do? Who will tell you who you really are? The entry ended there. She died 2 weeks later. I closed the journal. My hands were steady, but something inside me had cracked open. All those years in the Crawford house, feeling unwanted, feeling wrong, and the whole time I'd had a mother who loved me. A mother who wanted me. A mother who'd been stolen from me before I could remember her face. I put the journal back in the box and locked the unit. Robert hadn't just stolen my inheritance. He'd stolen my history. Now I was going to take it all back. 3 days later, Robert Crawford showed up at my office uninvited. My security team called up from the lobby. I told them to let him through. I wanted to see this. He looked terrible. The past week had aged him a decade. His suit was wrinkled, his tie crooked, his face the color of old cheese. You've made your point, he said, standing in my doorway. Call off the lawyers. No. Ava, please. We raised you. We gave you a home. You gave me a prison. You made me feel like a burden every day for 18 years. You threw me out with nothing the moment I became inconvenient. I stayed seated. And you stole 40% of a company that belonged to my dead mother. His face twitched. How did you find out about Eleanor? Her name was on the original incorporation papers. Did you think I wouldn't look? We didn't steal anything. The buyout was legal. The signatures don't match. My handwriting expert says Eleanor's signature was traced from another document. You forged it. Robert sank into the chair across from my desk. For a moment, the mask slipped. I saw fear. What do you want? Everything. The company. The house. Full repayment of 40 years of profits that should have gone to my mother's estate, adjusted for inflation. I calculate roughly $80 million. We don't have that kind of money. The house will cover part of it. The rest you can pay in installments. My lawyers will work out the terms. You'll bankrupt us. Yes. He stared at me. You're not the same girl we raised. The girl you raised is dead. You killed her 8 years ago when you threw her out for something Sophia did. I stood. You have 5 more days to vacate the Greenwich house. Use the time wisely. Ava, please. Your mother, Margaret, she's not well. The stress is. Margaret isn't my mother. My mother is buried in a cemetery in Vermont. I visited her grave last weekend. Someone had been leaving flowers. Was that you? He said nothing. That's what I thought. I pressed a button on my desk. Security will escort you out. 2 guards appeared. Robert stood slowly, his shoulders slumped. The company was dying anyway, he said quietly. Sophia has no talent. I'm no designer. We've been losing money for years. I know. I'm going to save it. With what? With the talent you tried to bury when you threw me out. He had no answer to that. The guards led him away. Liam resurfaced 3 weeks later. He sent a text from an unknown number, we need to talk. I have information about your mother. I debated ignoring it. But the mention of Eleanor made that impossible. We met at a diner in Long Island City. Liam looked rough, unshaven, thinner, the confidence stripped away. Sophia had filed a civil suit against him for fraud. Robert was pressing criminal charges for embezzlement. His family had disowned him. You said you had information about my mother. Coffee first? You don't get coffee. Talk. He sighed. Fine. When I was going through Robert's office, looking for financial records, I found something else. Letters between Robert and a doctor. A specialist in rare diseases. What kind of diseases? The kind that killed your mother. Robert had been consulting with him for years. He slid a flash drive across the table. It's all on here. Medical records. Correspondence. Robert knew your mother was sick before she died. He was her doctor's business partner. They'd invested together in some medical startup. My pulse quickened. What are you saying? I'm saying your mother's disease was treatable. She didn't have to die. Robert blocked her from getting the right care because he wanted her shares. The diner felt very cold. That's murder. That's what the documents suggest. I'm not a lawyer. Why are you giving me this? Liam met my eyes for the first time. Because you're the only person who hates Robert Crawford more than I do right now. He's destroying me. I want him destroyed back. I took the flash drive. This doesn't make us even. You still stole $5 million and broke my sister's heart. Your sister doesn't have a heart. He stood. Do what you want with the evidence. I'll be in Brazil. He walked out. I sat alone in the booth, the flash drive heavy in my palm. If what Liam said was true, then Robert hadn't just stolen my inheritance. He'd let my mother die to get it. I called David Morrow on the way back to the office. I need you to look into a doctor. Someone Robert Crawford invested with in the late 80s. What's this about? Possibly murder. Silence. Then, I'll call you back in 48 hours. The results came faster than expected. David's report landed on my desk 2 days later. Dr. Harold Whitfield, a specialist in autoimmune disorders, had been in business with Robert Crawford since 1987. They'd co-invested in a biotech startup. Whitfield was Eleanor Vance's treating physician during her illness in 1991. The treatment she needed was expensive but effective. Whitfield had recommended against it. His rationale in the medical notes was thin, borderline malpractice. Robert had paid off Whitfield's gambling debts 3 months after Eleanor's death. I read the report twice. Then I called my lead attorney. Can we press charges for manslaughter? Based on this? Possibly. It's circumstantial but compelling. A good prosecutor could build a case. Start preparing the filing. Ava, if we go this route, it's nuclear. The family will fight to the death. Good. I hung up. So will I. The story broke on a Thursday. Fashion mogul accused of letting business partner die for shares, the headline screamed. Crawford Designs scandal deepens, manslaughter investigation opened. Robert was arrested at the Greenwich house. Margaret collapsed and was hospitalized. Sophia gave a tearful statement to the press claiming she knew nothing. I watched the coverage from my apartment, a glass of wine in my hand. The satisfaction I'd expected still hadn't arrived. Instead, I felt something stranger, grief. For my mother, who died alone and afraid. For the girl I'd been, who grew up believing she was unwanted. For all the years that could have been different. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. You win. I'm leaving the country. I hope you're happy. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. A week before the trial began, I drove to Vermont. My mother's grave was in a small cemetery outside Burlington, beneath an oak tree. The headstone was simple, her name, her dates, and a single line, "Beloved Mother." I knelt in the grass and cleared away dead leaves. I found out what happened to you, I said. Robert is going to prison. It won't bring you back, but it's something. The wind moved through the oak branches. Sunlight dappled the stone. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if I believe in that. But I wanted to tell you, I turned out okay. I built something. A company, a life. They tried to destroy me, but they failed. My voice caught. I wish I'd known you. I wish I'd had more than journals and photographs. I wish you'd been there. I sat with her for an hour, until the sun dipped low. Then I stood and pressed my palm to the cold stone. I'll come back. I'll tell you how the trial goes. At the cemetery gate, my phone buzzed. A news alert: Robert Crawford pleads guilty to reduced charges. Will serve 7 to 10 years. So it was over. Not the dramatic trial I'd imagined, but a plea deal behind closed doors. Robert would go to prison. Margaret would live out her years in a small apartment paid for by whatever the courts didn't seize. Sophia was somewhere in Europe, posting blurry photos of sunsets with captions about starting fresh. And I was here. Alive. Free. Standing in a cemetery with the ghost of a mother I'd never known. Back in New York, the Crawford Designs building was being renovated. The old logo, a stylized CD that Robert had commissioned 20 years ago, was coming down. In its place would go something new. A tribute to Eleanor Vance. The Vance Foundation launched that month. We funded design scholarships for students who couldn't afford Parsons. We gave grants to young women starting businesses. We invested in medical research for autoimmune diseases. At the launch party, Helen Chin found me by the window. You look different, she said. How so? Lighter. Like you put down something heavy. I think I did. Good. Now what? I looked out at the city. Manhattan glittered in the darkness, a million lights, a million possibilities. Now I build something that's actually mine. Not revenge. Not payback. Something real. Helen raised her glass. To Eleanor. To Eleanor. We drank. Outside, the city hummed with life. Behind me, the party buzzed with conversation. Ahead of me, a future I'd never been able to imagine when I was 18 and homeless and burning with rage. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the photo I always kept, Eleanor holding me as a baby, her face exhausted but joyful. I made it, Mom, I thought. I finally made it. The night was young. The foundation was launched. And somewhere, in a cold prison cell, Robert Crawford was learning what it felt like to lose everything. Justice, it turned out, was a dish best served with patience. Sophia spent 6 months in Europe. She started in Paris, posting cafe shots and flower market photos with captions like New Beginnings and Healing Journey. Then Rome. Then Barcelona. Then some Greek island where the sunsets were orange and her smile got thinner with every upload. People in the comments called her brave. Nobody knew she was running. I checked her profile occasionally. Not because I cared. Because I wanted to see how long a person could perform before the mask cracked. 6 months in, it cracked. She posted a photo of herself crying on a balcony, mascara streaked, caption, "Some days the wait is too much." Within an hour, the comments flooded in with heart emojis and "Stay strong, Queen." She deleted it 20 minutes later. By month 7, the sponsored posts dried up. By month 8, she stopped posting entirely. Margaret was out of the hospital and into a long-term care facility. The stroke had slurred her speech and numbed the left side of her body. I went once, stood in the doorway, watched her stare at me with an expression I couldn't read. Regret, maybe. Rage, maybe. Both. I didn't go in. Robert sat in a cell upstate, his appeals exhausted. His lawyer tried to get him released on health grounds. Denied. Tried to argue the plea was coerced. Denied. My legal team forwarded me every filing with a note, no risk. I sent him a settlement offer through my attorney. It was simple: drop all remaining claims, cooperate in transferring every last asset to my name, and I wouldn't pursue charges against Margaret for her role in the fraud. He signed it in 3 days. He didn't read past the first page, my lawyer said. He pressed so hard on the last signature that the pen tore through the paper. Anger? Defeat. That word felt heavier than any verdict. Crawford Designs reopened 3 months later under a new name, Vance Design. At the launch, I stood at a podium in the same lobby where my grandfather's portrait used to hang. Now there was a photograph of Eleanor Vance, dark hair, kind eyes, a slight smile, blown up to fill the wall behind me. My mother should have been standing in this building in 1991, I said. She didn't get that chance. I'm taking it for her. The press ate it up. The industry buzzed. The first Vance collection, my designs, my name, my legacy, sold out in 10 days. For the first time in 8 years, I wasn't thinking about revenge. I was thinking about what came next. Then Sophia came back. She showed up at the Vance offices on a Tuesday morning, no warning, no appointment. My receptionist called up, voice uncertain. "There's a woman here who says she's your sister." I told her to send Sophia up. She looked different. Thinner, yes, but also harder. The softness she'd weaponized her whole life had worn away. Her hair was shorter, uncolored at the roots. Her clothes were simple, no logos, no flash. She looked like someone who'd been scraped down to the bone. "Nice office," she said, sitting without being invited. "I'm busy, Sophia. I want a job." I almost laughed. "No. I'm serious. I have no money. No degree. No skills anyone wants to hire. But I know fashion. I grew up in it." She met my eyes. "You owe me that much." "I owe you nothing. I told you that at the cafe. This is different. I'm not asking for a handout. I'm asking for work. Why would I trust you in my company?" She reached into her bag. For a second, I tensed, old reflexes. But she pulled out a folder, not an envelope. She placed it on my desk. My designs. Original ones. Not stolen. A flicker of something passed over her face. "I've been drawing for 6 months. No internet. No audience. Just me figuring out if I had anything real." I didn't open the folder. "You destroyed my life once. You framed me. You stole my inheritance. You stood by while your parents lied to me for 18 years. Now you want me to give you a chance?" "Yes." "Why would I do that?" "Because you're not them." Her voice cracked, just slightly. "You could have destroyed me completely. You had the power. You still do. But you didn't. You let me leave. You let Mom stay out of prison. You even let Dad live." She swallowed. "Some part of you still believes people can change." I stared at her. The sister who'd tormented me. The girl who whispered charity case in my ear every chance she got. The woman who'd stood at her engagement party and called me a disgrace in front of 200 people. She was asking for mercy. "I'll look at the designs," I said. "If they're any good, I'll consider a junior position. Unpaid internship. You work your way up like everyone else. One mistake, one hint of the old Sophia, and you're gone. No second chances." She nodded. "Okay. One more thing." "What?" "You'll sign a legal document acknowledging everything you did. The plagiarism. The lies. The role you played in my disinheritance. That document stays in my safe. If you ever try to hurt me or this company again, it goes public." She paled but didn't flinch. "Fine." I buzzed my assistant. "Jenny, bring me the standard intern contract. And call legal. I need a confession agreement drafted." Sophia looked at me. "You planned for this." "I planned for everything." She almost smiled. "You always were the smart one. Don't push it." She started the following Monday. The first month was hell. Sophia had never worked a real job. She'd never had to show up on time, take orders from people she considered beneath her, or redo the same hem 6 times because the senior designer said it wasn't right. I assigned her to accessories under a woman named Monica Reyes, who'd been with me since the early Kane Innovations days and took exactly zero attitude from anyone. She's slow, Monica reported. Attitude's better than I expected, but she's slow. Makes mistakes. What kind? The kind that come from never being told no. She assumes she knows best. Then she screws up. Keep her at it. The second month, Sophia got into an argument with another intern over a fabric choice. Monica sent them both home. Sophia showed up the next morning with coffee for the whole team and an apology that sounded almost genuine. The third month, one of her designs got picked for a capsule collection. I found out from Monica, not from her. It's good, Monica said, shrugging. Not great. But good. She's got an eye when she stops trying so hard. I went to the design floor and looked at the sketch pinned to the board. A handbag, clean lines, architectural shape, subtle gold hardware. It reminded me of something I might have drawn at 20. Sophia came up behind me. Is it awful? No. Really? It's derivative in two places. The handle is too similar to a Bottega design from last season, and the clasp borrows too heavily from an old Celine piece. Fix those, and it could be something. She blinked. You actually looked at it. I look at everything that goes out under my name. I thought you'd ignore it. Or reject it without reading. That's what you would have done. She had no answer to that. Liam resurfaced exactly once. He sent an email from a burner account, subject line, "You'll want to see this." Attached was a news clipping from a Brazilian paper. His photo. A headline about an arrest for fraud. He'd tried to pull the same scheme on a hotel heiress in Sao Paulo and got caught. I forwarded it to Sophia. She replied an hour later, "Good." That was all. 6 months into Sophia's internship, Margaret died. The call came from the care facility at 3 in the morning. Stroke. Second one. Massive. She never woke up. I sat in my apartment, phone in hand, and waited for grief to hit. It didn't. I felt something, but it wasn't sadness. It was more like the ache of a door finally closing. Sophia called at dawn, voice hollow. She's gone. I know. They called me. Will you come to the funeral? I don't know. If you don't, I understand. But I'd like you there. I went. Not for Margaret. For whatever part of myself still needed to see the box go into the ground. The service was small, a few old friends, some distant relatives who hadn't gotten the memo that the Crawfords were social poison. Sophia stood at the front in black, dry-eyed. Robert wasn't allowed to attend. The prison had denied his request for temporary release. Afterward, Sophia and I stood in the parking lot. She wasn't a good mother, Sophia said. No. She wasn't. But she was mine. I didn't argue. Some truths didn't need correcting. She knew, Sophia said quietly. About Eleanor. About the shares. The whole time. I figured. She never said anything. Just went along with everything Dad did. Sophia's voice broke. I spent my whole life thinking I was better than you because she told me I was. And the whole time it was built on a lie. I looked at her. The mask was gone. Finally. I can't undo what I did to you, she said. I know that. But I want you to know, I understand now. What it felt like. Being told you're nothing. How? Because that's what I am now. No family. No money. No fiancé. No reputation. I had to start over from zero, and I didn't even know how to make coffee when I came back. She laughed, a raw sound. You did it at 18 with nothing. I did it at 27 with an internship you gave me out of pity. It wasn't pity. Then what? I thought about it. Proof. That I could. Could what? Break the cycle. They made us enemies. I wanted to see if we could be something else. Sophia stared at me. Are we? Something else? I don't know yet. Ask me in another 6 months. On the 1-year anniversary of the engagement party, I held a private event at the Vance Design showroom. Not a celebration. A memorial, for Eleanor, for the years lost, for the things that couldn't be repaired. Helen came. David Morrow came. My team came. Sophia stood at the back, quiet. I unveiled the new Eleanor collection, a line of accessories named after my mother's journals. Each piece corresponded to an entry. The March bracelet. The June earrings. The November necklace, designed to hold a photo, because November was the month I was born. The proceeds would fund autoimmune disease research. At the end of the night, I found Sophia still standing by the display case, looking at the November necklace. She would have been proud of you, she said. You didn't know her. No. But I know you. She turned. And you're the best thing this family ever produced. That's not a compliment to you. It's an insult to the rest of us. I almost smiled. You're getting better at honesty. I'm practicing. Robert died in prison 18 months into his sentence. Heart attack. Quick, the warden said. Probably didn't feel much. I took the call in my office, thanked the man, and hung up. Then I sat for a long time staring at the photo of Eleanor on my wall. No satisfaction came. No grief either. Just the hollow echo of something that had taken up so much space in my life for so long, and now there was just silence. Sophia got the news separately. We met for coffee that evening, same cafe on Madison where I'd handed her the DNA results. Both of them gone in less than 2 years, she said. Yeah. Do you feel anything? I don't know. Do you? Relief. She said it without apology. Does that make me a monster? Makes you honest. She stirred her coffee. I've been thinking about leaving New York. Not running away this time. Just somewhere new. I got an offer from a design house in Chicago. Good offer? Junior accessories designer. Actual salary. They liked the capsule collection. The one with the bag? Yeah. I fixed the handle and the clasp like you said. She almost smiled. The interviewer mentioned it specifically. I looked at her. She looked back. You'll do fine, I said. Is that approval? Observation. Coming from you, that's the same thing. We finished our coffee. When the check came, she grabbed it. I got this one. That's a first. I owe you about 8,000 coffees. I'm starting the repayment plan. I let her pay. A year later, Vance Design opened its first international flagship in Paris. I flew over for the launch, stayed in a hotel near the Seine, and walked the city in the early mornings before the event started. On the third morning, I found myself in front of a small cemetery. Not the famous one, just a neighborhood graveyard, old and quiet. I went in. The headstones were weathered. Names in French. Dates going back centuries. I walked the rows until I found a bench and sat down. My phone buzzed. Sophia, from Chicago. A photo of a handbag in a store window with a small tag that read designed by S. Crawford. She dropped the Vance name professionally. I hadn't asked her to. She'd just done it. The caption, my first solo piece in a retail window. Thought you should see. I typed back, not bad. She replied instantly, high praise. I put my phone away and sat in the cemetery a little longer. The Paris sky was gray and soft. Somewhere in the distance, church bells rang. I thought about my mother. About the journal entry I'd memorized, who will love you the way I do? Who will tell you who you really are? It took 26 years, but I finally had an answer. I would. I stood, brushed off my coat, and walked back toward the city. The future was waiting. For the first time, I was ready to meet it without looking over my shoulder. Dance design grew steadily after Paris. We opened flagships in Tokyo and London. The Eleanor Foundation funded research that led to an early detection blood test for the autoimmune disease that killed my mother. I accepted a philanthropy award on her behalf and didn't cry on stage, though I came close. Sophia stayed in Chicago for 3 years, worked her way up to senior designer, then started her own small label, a line of handbags under the name Crawford Independent. She sent me one from the first collection. The note inside said, "I know the name is complicated. But it's mine now. Not his. Not theirs. Mine." I put the bag on a shelf in my office where I could see it. We talked every few months. Not like sisters, we'd never had that, and probably never would. But like two people who'd survived the same wreckage and crawled out on different shores. "She's changed," Helen said once. "You know that, right?" "I know. Does it make a difference?" I thought about it. "It makes things less heavy." "That's something." "It is." 5 years after the engagement party, I stood in the Vance Design showroom at the annual gala, watching the crowd mingle among the displays. Helen was there with her wife. David Morrow had retired but came for the free champagne. Monica Reyes was now my creative director, running the design floor with the same zero-tolerance attitude. My phone buzzed. A video call. Sophia, from somewhere sunny. She'd moved to Los Angeles the year before. "Hey," she said. "Am I interrupting?" "I'm at a gala." "I know. I just wanted to show you something." She flipped the camera around. A small storefront, freshly painted. A sign above the door, Crawford Independent. "You opened a physical store?" "Grand opening next week." "I'm terrified." "Good. Terror means you're doing something real." She laughed. "You used to say that to the interns." "Because it's true." I paused. "Congratulations." "Sincerely." "Thanks." She flipped the camera back. Her hair was longer now, pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked older. Calmer. "I couldn't have done it without you." "You could have." "Might have taken longer." "Still stubborn." "Still right." She grinned. "Go enjoy your party, CEO. Go finish your store, small business owner." She hung up. I slipped my phone back into my clutch and looked out at the room. The Eleanor collection had just been restocked. The November necklaces were almost sold out. Somewhere, my mother's photo watched over the crowd. I had spent 8 years planning revenge. 5 more years learning to live without it. The second half was better. Late that night, after the gala, I sat alone in my apartment with a glass of wine and the final box from the storage unit, the one I'd never opened. Inside was a single envelope, addressed to me in my grandfather's handwriting. I'd found it months ago during the office renovation, tucked behind a loose panel in his old desk. I'd been waiting for the right moment. Tonight felt like it. I opened it. "My dear Ava. If you're reading this, I'm gone, and you've found your way back to what's yours. I never doubted you would. You were always the strong one. I know what Robert did. I found out too late, after your mother died, after the will was signed, after I'd already made my choices. I should have protected you. I should have done more. I failed you in the worst way a person can fail someone they love. But I want you to know this, everything I built thinking of you. Every design, every decision, every late night at the studio, I imagined you there someday, taking it further than I ever could. You have the gift. You always did. I'm sorry I wasn't braver. I'm sorry I didn't speak up when it mattered. But I'm not sorry I believed in you. That belief was the truest thing I ever had. Build something beautiful. For your mother. For yourself. For me. Love. Grandfather." I read it twice. Then a third time. Then I folded it carefully, placed it back in the envelope, and set it next to the photo of Eleanor on my shelf. 2 ghosts. 2 legacies. 1 future. The city glittered outside my window. Somewhere in California, Sophia was painting a storefront. Somewhere in a research lab, a foundation I'd built was saving lives. Somewhere in Vermont, my mother's grave sat under an oak tree. And I was here. Alive. Whole. Finally. I raised my glass to the skyline. Not bad, I said to no one. Not bad at all. 10 years after the engagement party, I received an invitation in the mail. It was addressed to Ava Vance. I'd legally changed my name 3 years earlier, dropping Kane, dropping Crawford, taking the name that should have been mine from the start. The envelope was cream-colored, heavy paper, handwritten. No return address. Inside was a card: "You are cordially invited to the wedding of Sophia Crawford and Michael Webb." I stared at it for a long time. Michael Webb. I'd heard the name in passing. Sophia mentioned him occasionally during our calls. An architect. Quiet. Kind. They'd met at a farmer's market in Los Angeles when he'd accidentally knocked over her display of handmade leather goods. She'd yelled at him. He'd come back the next week with coffee and an apology. "He's not like Liam," she'd told me once. "He's not trying to be anything. He just is." I'd filed that information away without comment. Sophia's romantic life wasn't my concern. But I'd noticed the change in her voice when she talked about him. Less performance. More warmth. The wedding was in Malibu. Small. 30 people. The invitation said, "No gifts. Just come." I RSVP'd yes. The ceremony was on a cliff overlooking the Pacific. Wooden chairs arranged on a lawn. Strings of lights hung between posts. No chandeliers. No champagne towers. No 200 guests pretending to like each other. Sophia walked down the aisle in a simple white dress, no train, no elaborate embroidery, nothing like the pink gown she'd worn at her engagement party a decade ago. Her hair was loose. Her feet were bare. Michael was tall and slightly rumpled, with the kind of face that looked like it smiled easily. When he saw her, he cried. Not the dignified, single-tear kind of crying. The real kind. I sat in the back row. Helen was beside me. Monica too. We'd flown out together. "She looks happy," Helen murmured. "She does. Did you ever think you'd be here?" "No." The vows were short. Michael said something about finding the right person at the wrong time and waiting until the time was right. Sophia said something about learning that love wasn't a performance. The officiant pronounced them married. The small crowd cheered. At the reception, Sophia found me by the cliff's edge. The sun was setting, painting the ocean in shades of gold and pink. "You came," she said. "You invited me. I wasn't sure you would." She paused. "I wasn't sure I should." "Why did you?" She looked out at the water. "Because you're the only family I have left." That's not sentimental. It's math. Mom is gone. Dad is gone. The relatives scattered after the scandal. You're it. That's depressing. She laughed. A little. She turned to me. "I spent a long time hating you for what you did. Then I spent a longer time hating myself for what I did. Now I'm just tired of hating." I didn't say anything. "I'm not asking us to be real sisters," she said. "I know that's not possible. Too much happened. But I'd like to stop being enemies. We stopped being enemies years ago." "I know. But I've never said it out loud." She faced me. "I'm sorry. For everything. The plagiarism. The lies. The way I treated you growing up. I was jealous and cruel and I destroyed your life because I couldn't stand that Grandpa loved you more." "Sophia. Let me finish. I've been rehearsing this. She took a breath. I know an apology doesn't fix anything. It doesn't give you back those years. It doesn't undo the damage. But I need you to hear it anyway. I am sorry. Truly. Completely. The waves crashed below us. The party hummed behind us. Somewhere, someone opened champagne. I know, I said. You know? I've known for years. You wouldn't have come back, wouldn't have taken that internship, wouldn't have rebuilt your life from nothing if you weren't sorry. The words were just words. The actions already said it. She blinked. So you forgave me? I don't know if forgive is the right word. I looked at the ocean. I stopped carrying it. That's different. Forgiveness is about you. Letting go was about me. Do you think you'll ever fully forgive me? I don't know. Ask me in another 10 years. She nodded slowly. That's fair. Michael appeared behind her, slightly out of breath. There you are. They want us to cut the cake. Go, I said. Enjoy your wedding. Sophia hesitated, then stepped forward and hugged me. It was brief, slightly awkward, the hug of two people who'd never learned how to do this. Thank you for coming, she said. Thank you for inviting me. She pulled back, smiled, and walked toward the party with her husband. I stayed by the cliff until the sun finished setting. 3 years later, I turned 36. I celebrated by taking a month off, my first real vacation since starting Kane Innovations at 19. I rented a cottage in Vermont, near the cemetery where Eleanor was buried. I walked there every morning, sat by her grave, and told her about my life. The company was doing well. The foundation had funded 12 research grants. Sophia's handbag line was in 50 stores nationwide. We texted occasionally, short, practical exchanges. She'd had a baby girl and named her Eleanor. Hope that's okay, she'd said over the phone. It's more than okay. I wanted her to have the name of someone strong. I visited them once, in their small house in Los Feliz. The baby had Sophia's blonde hair and Michael's easy smile. I held her in my arms and felt something crack open, not pain, exactly. More like the recognition of a road not taken. She has your stubborn chin, Sophia said. She has yours too. Poor kid. We'd laughed. Actual laughter, not the brittle kind we used to weaponize against each other. It felt strange and natural at the same time. On the last day of my Vermont trip, I visited the storage unit where I'd kept Eleanor's things all those years ago. Most of it had been moved to my apartment in New York, but a few boxes remained. I found one I hadn't opened before. Inside were letters, not Eleanor's, but my grandfather's. Letters he'd written to her before she died. Drafts of business plans. Notes about the company's future. At the bottom of the box was a photograph I'd never seen. It showed a party. Some kind of company celebration, probably late 80s judging by the clothes. My grandfather stood in the center, young and beaming. Beside him was Eleanor, laughing at something off camera. And in the background, barely visible, were Robert and Margaret Crawford, younger, hungrier, watching the founders with expressions I recognized now as envy. They'd spent decades waiting for their moment. And when it came, they took everything. But looking at the photo, I didn't feel anger anymore. Just a quiet, distant sadness. They could have built something together. Instead, they chose theft and lies, and it destroyed them all. I tucked the photo into my bag and left the storage unit for the last time. At 40, I stepped down as CEO of Vance Design. It wasn't a retreat. It was a graduation. Monica had been running day-to-day operations for years. The company was stable, profitable, respected. I'd taken it as far as I could. Now it needed someone with different skills. The board named Monica as my successor. I stayed on as chairwoman, attending quarterly meetings and mentoring new designers. The press called it the end of an era. They ran retrospectives, my rise from homeless teen to fashion mogul, the Crawford scandal, the Vance revival. Someone optioned the film rights. I declined to participate. I don't need a movie, I told Helen. You sure? It'd be good publicity. I've had enough publicity for one lifetime. Helen was still with me after all these years, not as an investor anymore, but as a friend. We had dinner every Tuesday. She'd retired from venture capital and taken up painting. Badly, by her own admission. She didn't care. It's not about being good, she said. It's about doing something that doesn't have a bottom line. I understood that now. Sophia and I met for coffee on a spring afternoon in New York. She was in town for a trade show, her brand now big enough to warrant a booth. The cafe was the same one on Madison where I'd handed her the DNA results 15 years ago. We sat at the same booth. Ordered the same drinks. Feels like a lifetime ago, she said. 15 years. 15 years. She shook her head. Eleanor starts kindergarten this fall. How is she? Feral. Opinionated. Absolutely refuses to wear anything I design. She smiled. She says my bags are boring. She wants to be a marine biologist. Sounds like she's got good instincts. She's got your stubbornness. I know she's not blood-related, but somehow. Stubbornness isn't genetic. It's learned. Then she learned it from you through some kind of cosmic transfer. I laughed. Sophia looked at me strangely. What? You laughed. A real one. I don't think I've ever heard you do that before. I thought about it. Maybe I didn't have much to laugh about. And now? I looked around the cafe. The same marble tables. The same overpriced pastries. The same afternoon light slanting through the windows. Everything was the same. Everything was different. Now, I said, I do. On the 20th anniversary of the engagement party, I didn't mark the day at all. I spent it at the foundation offices, reviewing grant applications. We were funding a new research initiative, gene therapy for autoimmune disorders. Early results were promising. The lead researcher had told me we might see a viable treatment within 5 years. Imagine, she'd said. What killed your mother could be curable. I didn't need to imagine. I'd been picturing it for 20 years. That evening, I went to the cemetery in Vermont alone. The oak tree was bigger now, its branches spreading wider over Eleanor's grave. I'd had the headstone cleaned recently. The words were still sharp, beloved mother. I sat in the grass, my back against the tree trunk. Hi, Mom, I said. It's been a while. The wind moved through the branches. The sun was low and golden. I'm 50 now. Can you believe that? 50. Half a century. And I still talk to your gravestone like you can hear me. A bird landed nearby, cocked its head, and flew off. I wanted to tell you, the foundation's doing well. The research you would have needed is getting funded. Other people will live because you didn't. That's not fair, but it's something. I paused, pulling a small box from my bag. Inside was a November necklace, the same design I'd launched all those years ago, but updated. The photo compartment held a picture of Eleanor and me, from that last box in Vermont. The only photo of us together. I hung it around my neck. I used to think revenge would fill the hole, I said. It didn't. Then I thought success would. It didn't. Then I thought building something in your name would. I touched the necklace. That helped. But you know what finally did it? Time. Just time. 20 years of waking up and choosing to build instead of destroy. 20 years of letting the anger cool into something I could use. The wind picked up. Leaves scattered across the headstone. I forgive Robert. I forgive Margaret. I forgive Sophia. Not because they deserve it, I still don't know if they do. But because I deserve to stop carrying them. I stood, brushing grass from my jeans. I turned out okay. More than okay. I built a life. I built a company. I helped people. None of it brought you back, but all of it honored you. I think that's what legacy is. Not what you leave behind. What people do because you existed. I pressed my palm to the headstone. Thank you. For wanting me. For loving me. For writing those journals so I'd know who I really was. You told me the truth, even from the grave. That's more than anyone else ever did. The sun dipped below the treeline. The cemetery darkened into twilight. I'll come back, I said. I always do. At 60, I retired fully. The board threw a party. Sophia flew in from Los Angeles with her husband and teenage daughter. Eleanor, the younger Eleanor, was tall and serious, with her father's easy smile and an encyclopedic knowledge of marine biology. She showed me photos of tide pools on her phone. You're named after my mother, I told her. I know. Mom told me the whole story. The whole story? Well, the age-appropriate version. She said the full version is for when I'm older. Smart. She said you were the strongest person she ever knew. That you survived things that would have broken anyone else. The girl looked at me with clear gray eyes. Is that true? I thought about it. I survived. I'm not sure that's the same as being strong. Mom says it is. Your mom's gotten wiser. She says that's your fault. I laughed. Another real laugh. They came easier now. The party wound down. People gave speeches. Monica, who'd retired 5 years before me, told the story of how I'd hired her straight out of design school and terrified her for the first 6 months. Helen, now in her 80s and still painting badly, toasted to the best investment I ever made. Sophia waited until the end, finding me by the window as the crowd thinned. 25 years since the engagement party, she said. Are we still counting? No. But I noticed the date. She leaned against the wall beside me. I used to dread it. Every year, the anniversary would come around and I'd spend the whole day feeling sick. And now? Now it's just a Tuesday. She looked at me. What you said at my wedding, about letting go instead of forgiving. I finally understand it. Yeah? The anger used to eat me alive. The shame. The guilt. I kept thinking if I just apologized enough, or worked hard enough, or proved myself enough, it would go away. But it didn't. It only went away when I stopped feeding it. She paused. So I guess what I'm saying is, thank you. For showing me that was possible. I looked at my sister. Gray hair at her temples now. Lines around her eyes. The same face I'd grown up hating, grown older learning to tolerate, grown older still learning to accept. You did the work, I said. I just gave you the chance. You gave me a lot more than that. The last guests were leaving. The staff was clearing glasses. The city glittered outside the window, the same skyline I'd looked at from my office for 40 years. What now? Sophia asked. I don't know. Whatever I want. That's the point. She smiled. Want to get dinner? There's a Thai place around the corner. Sure. We walked out together into the New York night. 2 women in their 60s, carrying the weight of decades that could have crushed them, still standing. Still walking. Still here. Not sisters, exactly. Not enemies either. Something else. Something we'd built from the rubble. The final chapter came quietly, the way real endings do. I was 73 when the letter arrived from the medical institute. The gene therapy our foundation had funded was approved. The disease that killed my mother was now treatable. Preventable, even, with early screening. I read the letter in my study, surrounded by photographs. Eleanor. My grandfather. Helen, who'd passed peacefully 2 years earlier. Sophia and her family, growing larger every year, grandchildren now, 3 of them, all with her stubborn chin. I placed the letter on my desk and walked to the window. It was autumn. Central Park was a carpet of red and gold. 55 years since I'd walked out of that engagement party. 55 years since I'd handed my sister an envelope and left. The girl who'd done that was barely more than a child, angry, broken, burning with the need to prove herself. I barely remembered her. What I remembered was everything that came after. The company I'd built. The foundation that saved lives. The sister I'd learned, impossibly, to tolerate. The mother I'd never known but somehow always felt beside me. Ava Vance. That was my name. The name I'd chosen. The name I'd earned. My phone buzzed. Sophia, now 71, video calling from California. Did you hear? She asked. The approval came through. I just read the letter. Mom's disease. Curable. Her voice caught. All those years of work, and you did it. You actually did it. We did it. The foundation. The researchers. Everyone. But it started with you. It always started with you. I didn't argue. Some truths didn't need humility. I'm proud of you, Sophia said. I know I don't say it enough. But I am. I know. Good. Just making sure. She paused. I love you, Ava. However weird that sounds after everything. It sounds weird. Thanks for the honesty. You're welcome. She laughed. Same old Ava. Same old Sophia. We talked a little longer, about her grandchildren, about my plans for the foundation's next phase, about nothing in particular. When we hung up, the sun was setting. I stood at the window until the sky darkened and the city lights came on, one by one, a million small victories against the night. Somewhere in a cemetery in Vermont, my mother's grave sat beneath an oak tree. Somewhere in California, Sophia was cooking dinner for her family. Somewhere in a laboratory, scientists were preparing a treatment that would save thousands of lives. And I was here. 73 years old. The disgrace who'd built an empire. The orphan who'd found her legacy. The girl with the envelope who'd become a woman with a purpose. I touched the November necklace I still wore every day. Not bad, I said to the empty room. Not bad at all. The city glittered on. And so did I.